Hi guys, so today we're going to talk about a strategy that will help us figure out whether a word problem is asking us to use multiplication or division. This is called the GET strategy. Put your title on your paper and then divide it in half. Okay, so in this top section we're going to talk about what the GET strategy is and what it means. So the GET strategy uses the letters G, E, and T. This is where we get the name GET. Now, when we use each of these letters and what they represent, it'll help us decide whether a word problem is asking us to multiply or if it's asking us to divide. So first, let's look at the G. The G represents the number of groups that are mentioned in the problem. We know that both multiplication and division represent equal groups in a certain way. So that's what the G stands for. Now the E represents the number of objects in each group. We also know that these groups have to be equal, and so that's what the E stands for, is how many of the objects are in each of the groups. And finally, the T represents the total number of objects. Once we put the groups and how many there are in each group together, we get the total number of objects. Alrighty, so that's the top part of your section, just explaining what the GET strategy stands for. Now, the bottom section, if you can divide that in half each, and we're going to use the top section for multiplication and the bottom section for division. Okay, so now we're going to see how exactly we're going to use this GET strategy to decide whether a problem is showing multiplication or division. So we're going to start with multiplication. So put your title at the top of that first section. A multiplication problem tells you the groups. It'll tell you how many groups. It can tell you that there are a certain number of rows, or there are a certain number of baskets, or there's a certain number of classrooms, and then it'll tell you how many are in each group. It'll tell you there's 8 in each row, or there's 6 in each basket, or there's 12 in each classroom. And it'll ask you for the total. It'll ask you how many of those objects or those people or whatever it is there are in all. So here, the GET strategy, we will take the groups and multiply it by the number in each group, and we'll be asked for the total. If you have the G part of the GET strategy and the E part of the GET strategy in your problem, and the question is asking you for the total, then you have to use multiplication to solve it. So now your notes should look like this. You should have your GET strategy up on top, and then the way it's used for multiplication. So now we're going to work on that bottom section to look to see how it looks like in division. So first off, put your title for this section at the top of it. A division problem will start by telling you the total. You'll know how many pieces of fruit there are in total, how many students there are in all, how many cars there are altogether. You will know the total. Then it'll ask you to figure out either how many groups they are in or how many are in each of the groups. So here for division, you'll use the GET strategy by starting with the total and dividing it by the number of groups in order to figure out how many there are in each group. Or you'll take the total and divide it by the number in each group to find how many groups there are. So whenever you know the total and you know one of either the groups or how many are in each group, and it's asking you to find the other one, then you know that you are talking about division. Remember that in multiplication and division, we're always talking about equal groups. So you will have some way of knowing how many groups there are or what the groups are represented by in both of the problems. The difference is that in multiplication, you're trying to find the total, and in division, it gives you the total. So now your notes should look like this. We're going to be using the GET strategy from now on whenever we see problems that talk about equal groups so that we can decide whether we use multiplication or division to solve the problem and answer the question. Make sure you answer your question and you're ready to discuss tomorrow. Bye-bye.